When it comes to video games, I feel like one of, if not the most polarizing video game has to be Call of Duty. Everyone is always mad at it, and when people start loving it, you get dumped on. If you dump on it too much, you get dumped on for dumping on it. Oh, these? Happy Easter. I feel like these bunny ears make this video a little bit less controversial. So the only thing more polarizing than that has to be politics. So what about a video with politics and Call of Duty in it at the same time? Leave it to Drifter to be that person to do that. I don't exactly know what this is going to be about. The title is COD Accelerationism. I don't even know what that term means, but I'm curious to hear what he has to say about it. And I believe it's about the evolution of Call of Duty and how older Call of Duties, some people say, are better, but maybe they're not better. And that's my best guess. That is my best guess. But let's hear what he has to say, and I have no idea where we're going with this.
Positive experiences.
Start
Do
over.
you feel that Call of Duty just isn't as good as it used to be? You can clearly remember several extremely positive experiences with classic Call of Duty games. Right now, you could even be thinking about Modern Warfare 2 or Blackout. Some people loved COD Ghosts or even Warzone 1. But for some reason, modern Call of Duty games like Black Ops 6 just don't do it for you. And maybe you think that this franchise is past its prime. After a couple more bad games, you begin to think maybe it's so far past its prime, it can't be saved. And the only reasonable choice for Call of Duty is to hope that the declining player base causes such a disruption in Activision's profits that they have no choice but to fire those responsible and start over again from scratch. The gist of that idea is that the franchise cannot be fixed until it reaches a point of critical failure. And there's a lot of people...
Which we have seen before, just to be clear. We have seen before with, when we hit Infinite Warfare. It was like that year going into Black Ops 4, where Black Ops 4 did decently well, actually pretty well after Infinite Warfare. But then with their we got to redo everything, they brought back a bunch of the original people who did the original Modern Warfare franchise, and then they built Modern Warfare 2019, and then boom, the franchise blew up again.
People in the Call of Duty community with
Are these all Nero? Every single one of these?
This opinion, not just commentators like me, but also plenty members of the gaming community at large, hope for this outcome for Call of Duty. It's a movement so big that it actually has a name when it occurs outside of gaming. It's called Accelerationism, and I think it is a perfect topic to mix with Call of Duty because what Call of Duty is going through is actually very similar to what our national political structure is going through with accelerationism. It's a little bit of a microcosm.
So basically saying it is so chalked, we need to start from the start, start all over.
Of the big event, or maybe it's one of those as above, so below things. As our society moves toward accelerationism, so does it impact our entertainment experiences as well. So let's go over the basic tenets of accelerationism and see if you are an accelerationist yourself.
Okay, all right.
One of the most important ones is that they basically believe the world operates in 4 cycles of around 100 years to
Oh, we're going deep with this
all
one.
4. They call them turnings, with each turning taking approximately 21 years, give or take.
Ooh, are we getting indoctrinated in a cult? Did this...
So we have about 80 to 100 years for 4 turnings to occur. Each turning is an epoch or a shift in society as a whole. And we give examples of this both for gaming and for real life stuff.
Just to be clear, in Call of Duty's popularity, we're about at 21 years. So
the first turning is considered a high, which usually occurs after a crisis. During the high, institutions are strong, individualism is weak, and society is generally very confident about where it wants to go collectively. A gaming example of a high point might be the golden era of Warzone 1, when it was the #1 game on the planet.
Yeah. So I like that he's giving examples. This is well done, Drifter. You did good on this one, buddy. Basically, so think of highs in the community. So when Modern Warfare 2, the original one, was first released and everyone was talking about the game, or Black Ops 2 or Warzone was first announced. Sure.
Fortnite. Fans were happy, quality was high, the future was looking bright, we all agreed about things, Activision was looking strong. A real-world example of this might be the post-World War II economic boom that all of the baby boomers got to enjoy and we did not. That amazing time where we were able to truly build the bedrock of what is still currently the American economy. But this doesn't last forever. After about 20-something years, in comes the second turning, which is called the Awakening. This is an era where institutions are attacked in the name of personal and spiritual autonomy. The conformity of the high is causing a sort of cultural counter-reaction, and people are pushing back against it.
Okay, so we saw that a little bit during Warzone, in fact, where people were saying Warzone's bad for the game. Like, it's when people start to be activist against the good thing.
This would be, in gaming terms, kind of like the IW4 mods and a variety of mods that the community created so that they could replay Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 2 or classic games, and that conflicted with the institution of Call of Duty when they fought back and tried to shut it down.
Okay.
The real-world example of this is probably the consciousness revolution, which spanned various college campuses and inner-city revolts ranging from the mid-1960s to the early 1990s. But that's not all. We got 2 more turnings to go. The third turning is considered an unraveling. As it is defined, the mood of this era, they say, is in many ways the opposite of a high. Institutions are weak and distrusted, while individualism is strong and flourishing.
I would say that this is where we are right now with Call of Duty.
In Call of Duty land, that's what's happening right now.
Well, look, who do we got here? We got some Zach. I don't know who this one is, but
institutions are incredibly weak. Call of Duty is incredibly distrusted. Individualism and people seeking other things is extremely strong right now. The game studios and publishers are just at their weakest positions in years. And it's kind of funny because, as I say, as above, so below, Call of Duty mirrors the real world. The most commonly cited real world example of the third turning, the unraveling, is our current culture war that we're engaging right now every single day in all sorts of places on the internet.
Yeah, one side against each other kind of thing.
And then finally, this is the spicy one, we have the fourth turning. The fourth turning is defined as a crisis. It is an era of destruction.
This might be where we are next. We might be in a Call of Duty crisis.
Destruction, often involving war, revolution.
Oh, well, I doubt there's going to be a war.
In which institutional life is destroyed and rebuilt in response to whatever perceived threat to the nation's survival. After the crisis, civic authority revives, cultural expression redirects toward community purpose, and people begin to locate themselves in members of larger groups to hopefully create another high point. Accelerationists cite real-world examples of the 1929 stock crash, or all of World War II, especially the extremely destructive nuclear era at the end of it.
Definitely is.
And I don't think that Call of Duty has hit this point yet. I don't think that I can make an example of a time in Call of Duty where it truly hit this crisis point, but people do.
I would say we're close right now. We were close in Infinite Warfare, and maybe during one of the World War II games, like Vanguard. Vanguard is better than it is right now, community-wise. Somehow.
Do believe that it's coming, and if acceleration theory is true, then the Call of Duty brand...
Hey, honestly, what it could be is this year, with GTA 6 coming out, them releasing another Black Ops game, that could do it.
Should be moving toward that crisis point in the near future.
Then we have Modern Warfare 4.
So I think that there is a fascinating comparison between our high-level politics in the United States and the people that are funding various philosophies, and what's actually happening in our little section of Call of Duty world. And now for the most important part of accelerationism. Its adherents believe that these cycles are completely unavoidable. Therefore, we recognize that if we're in the tail end of the awakening, or maybe fully in the unraveling, that we should actually be working to accelerate towards the crisis. The idea is to make the unpleasant parts of the cycle as short as possible, effectively speedrunning to the good parts. This lines up very closely with community sentiments on Call of Duty, and
guys, we made it. We made it. Fun or Buns made it, which is hilarious because that's the second channel.
A lot of people think that we can't get good parts anymore until we destroy what we currently have. Thus, speedrunning failed Call of Duty development cycles to finally get to the good games. So if you're one of the people who think that the only way to save Call of Duty is to first destroy it, then you're probably in some capacity an accelerationist. And you can...
Yeah, so like we definitely see those people 100%. Like the only way to make Call of Duty good again is to destroy what's already there, get rid of skill-based matchmaking, and the only way to do that is by... So like Nero, Blame Truth, I mean, sometimes me.
Be an accelerationist if you are actively trying to destroy the game.
But I'm not doing that.
I don't know, society at large. Or if you're just hoping that natural societal and market forces do that for you. Most accelerationists don't really care what causes the acceleration toward the crisis.
By the way, that gameplay lag is whatever Drifter uploaded, because he himself is not like lagging. It's just the gameplay. So I don't know what's going on with that.
And I'm going to add one more wrinkle of interest to this, which is that accelerationism doesn't just apply to political or social cycles, but also to technological flavors. So much so, there's an entirely different flavor of accelerationist that often identify themselves
like
with the E/ACC text online. I may be over summarizing here, but the technological accelerationists broadly believe that a technological singularity is unavoidable. If you're unfamiliar with the singularity concept, that's a rate of technological advance where we truly hit that flat part of the graph that just goes straight up, change so fast we can't even understand it. It's often described as a super...
Yeah, so like that's... People think it's going to be AI that causes that.
Intelligent
just to be clear.
AI that can answer any question. Faster than light travel, immortality, various future technology indistinguishable from magic that will help us live better and radically different lives. Also things like Neuralink and modifying your brain, that's a part of, accelerationism. Therefore, technological accelerationists believe that we should be speedrunning technology at literally any cost, that there is no environmental, financial, social, or human cost too high to slow down the progress of that singularity, because they very much so believe that it's going to happen, it has to happen, and it'll be a good thing. Let's just get there quicker. A fun quote that I found online is that accelerationists argue that technology, particularly computer technology, and capitalism, particularly the most aggressive global variety, should be massively sped up and intensified, either because this is the best way forward for humanity or because they don't see any other alternatives.
So it's kind of like how, I don't know about where you guys live, but right now, the housing market here is just, houses are so expensive. Like I'm in Canada, and it's wild, and people believe that the only way to lower those prices of houses is to have an absolute market crash. The problem with that, it's going to bankrupt so many people that everyone who has a house currently would be pretty close to screwed. And obviously there's some big problems with that, but some people believe that's the only way to fix that. And then other people believe, well, inflation will adjust for itself, which is scary in and of itself.
Accelerationism used to be
we're going off the deep end,
literally a fringe political theory, even borderlining on just being a conspiracy theory. It overlaps with collapse theory, which was very popular after 9/11 for those of you that were reading things online. However,
there's a joke there. There's a joke there with collapsing. There's a joke there.
Despite being fringe and having very few adherents and being relatively new, it has accurately predicted our future over the last couple of decades. We live in a society that is accelerating. Change is accelerating. We are moving away from our institutions. Technology is ramping up toward...
The only thing, I agree with those cycles that he was talking about for sure, and I think Call of Duty has been through most of those. I don't think the 21-year thing was true, at least in Call of Duty terms. And if you believe in accelerationism, you should believe that those phases continue to be faster and faster.
Singularity with the AI and a lot of major shifts in society.
You know what? Let's continue his metaphor. I think we can continue this metaphor. If you talk about like accelerationism and how Call of Duty like went through those phases with like Modern Warfare 2 being like the peak, with Black Ops 2 being the peak, and all of this. And then we had a crisis within Infinite Warfare, and then it rose back up with Modern Warfare 2. And then the second time that this cycle happened after Modern Warfare 2019, it happened faster, way faster than those previous years. And then this next one, it might just be a year-to-year cycle where it's crisis good, like
society, wars, changes in resources, pandemic even, can all be pointed toward accelerationism if you want to. These predictions of collapse attracted some attention from, we'll say, all of the wrong characters. Instead of becoming a theory, accelerationism, I guess, accelerated into a philosophy. And this philosophy attracted followers who largely hope to aid the acceleration of societal collapse. What makes this theory interesting to me is where it crosses over with our current politics, and where you can see accelerationism mirroring down into smaller communities like the Call of Duty one, or other gaming communities or services or platforms and technology and groups. It's very, I really believe in the as above, so below on this particular political philosophy, so it's very fascinating to me. there are some very big names that have fully embraced the concept of accelerationism,
Elon Musk was in the
or at a very
thumbnail, by the way.
minimum have
So I'm
espoused
assuming that's what he's
beliefs that
talking about.
strongly align with accelerationism. Not only that, but many of these big names are extremely rich people who now have disproportional influence on our government, and they want to
I
speed
don't know why he won't just say Elon Musk.
run the collapse in the same way that many people want to speed run the collapse of Call of Duty. So I'm going to go through some examples really quick. A very easy one right off the rip, Elon Musk.
There we
Probably
go.
the prime example, both a
lost my
political and
ears.
technological accelerationist. He believes that our government is inherently designed to fail, and that forcing it to fail is speed running the process to success.
I see, this is where people are going to start to disagree, right? Like, some people could say that he's trying to save the government, and some people would say he's trying to destroy it. We digress.
He's also a believer in the technological singularity.
He
You've
definitely
got Mark
is.
Andreessen.
No
He is
idea
the
who that is.
co-author of Mosaic and Netscape. He gets tied into this because he will donate huge amounts of money to almost any cause that promises to deregulate cryptocurrency. As a side note,
crypto guy.
accelerationists absolutely love cryptocurrency. That's one of their favorite things on the planet. You've got Jeff Bezos. This one's kind of a no-brainer because working for Amazon is kind of like working in a boring
What I'm learning is if you're rich, you're an accelerationist.
cyberpunk
That's what I get from this.
dystopia. You've got Sam Altman, who seems to be very heavily on the technological side of the spectrum and believes that artificial intelligence will be running the future, and that it's important that him and his company get there first. Some of the spicier ones here at the bottom, where we're getting to some of these personal political opinions coming out. We've got Peter Thiel. This is a name you might have heard in left-wing circles, very little in right-wing circles. He became a billionaire by being an early investor in Palantir, PayPal, and Facebook. And
Okay.
he's most famous for his
investor.
claim, quote, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible." He advocated for dark enlightenment, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later.
Okay, remember at the beginning of this when I said we were getting into a cult? I think we're there. I think we're in the cult.
Published a number of books and essays that all argue various flavors of accelerationism. In many ways, he's considered one of the foundational people in the accelerationist movement. He's a very interesting guy because he considers himself to be a conservative libertarian Republican that is also openly gay and atheist, so at odds with his own party, but he's also a Republican mega donor that holds wildly disproportional influence over that party. There's a
It sounds like he just can't make up his mind.
whole rabbit hole I could go down here with the influence of Peter Thiel. Maybe that's best saved for a different video. Another one, not as rich as the rest, Curtis Yarvin. He's an extremely popular blogger
He looks angry. He looks
and
angry.
a neo-reactionary politician. He's best known for founding the Dark Enlightenment movement, and as a minor summary of that, Yarvin argues that American democracy is a failed experiment, and it should be replaced by an accountable monarchy similar to the governance structure of corporations. And he's close personal friends with our current Vice President, J.D. Vance. So just yay on that one. And then finally, at the end of this list of famous...
I'm gonna go on a limb and say Drifter doesn't like Trump. I'm just gonna
people,
throw
a
that
name
out
that
there.
you did not expect to see on this list, especially not somebody with my shameless political bias.
Okay,
Karl
he
Marx.
just admitted it.
Karl Marx might be the most famous accelerationist on this list, also the most dead. Karl Marx was indeed an accelerationist because in his early works he proposed that capitalism was inevitable, as was its failure. So when it came time to support various political parties...
What is this? This is a question for someone much smarter than me. What is the biggest example of a country or government system like capitalism completely failing? Because I feel like it's happened so many times throughout history that, like, the way that our society is currently run is bound to fail, like, eventually, in one way or another. And how much it does and how much it gets replaced with something else is anyone's guess. But, like, I feel like this is, like, all of this is just inevitable.
He often supported parties that had policies of free trade.
Also very curious if he somehow ties this into Call of Duty at the end.
Libertarian type policies, pro-business parties, things like that. And he believed that we needed to let the capitalism experiment happen. And not only should we let it happen, we should really support it and just let people go buck wild with it, because it will eventually fail. And then after capitalism fails, then we get to move on to Karl Marx's perfect socialism that's totally going to come next and fix the world, right, guys? But what's frightening to me is that a huge number of accelerationists happen to be influential billionaires or people with values of hundreds of millions of dollars, or politicians or people that have disproportional influence. They are also not shy about supporting politicians that will bring about accelerationist policies. These individuals, because of their wealth and position of power, all seem to be broadly advocating for a future that's similar to Cyberpunk 2077.
I mean, are we against this?
The influential accelerationists all seem to prefer a corporate-run society with little to no government. Corporate bylaws
I've played the game. There's some pretty cool stuff in there.
Would replace our regular laws. Citizenship would most likely be replaced with employment at various companies in their company towns and lands.
I've also seen The Boys. Pretty cool system they got going on there.
Equality, equity, freedom, these sort of things. We wipe all that away, and people are judged based on a strict, corporate-focused meritocracy. Your value to the company is your value, and it's not equal or equitable or any of those kind of things. This is very literally cyberpunk. Not only,
I think we're going pretty extreme with this. I think we're fully indoctrinated in the cult at this point, and yeah,
just the genre, but the game and almost any piece of cyberpunk media you see will have stuff like this in it. And the end result is the sci-fi future version of a coal mining town. As many of you might know, coal miners in the early 1900s in America had to work in coal mining towns. And the company that owned the mine would also own the town, and they would own the houses in the town and the stores in the town.
There'd be gold
and you didn't
in
get
them
paid
hills.
in cash, you got paid in scrip, which is like monopoly money that were like coupons.
They could only use in the town.
And these people lived like slaves under the companies, in many cases not even free to travel or to leave, or permanently indebted.
If you want a good watch, I can't remember who it was, but someone did a video on Coca-Cola built a town. No, it wasn't Coca-Cola. It was Ford built a town in South America to get rubber out of trees and have a plant there. And they ran their town like this. And it was fascinating. Some of the rules that they had and stuff. I can't remember who did that video.
That is exactly the future that a lot of accelerationists want, but just add some technology and cyberpunky stuff in there. So
I feel like Drifter, like right before he made this video, got into the Mary Jane a little too heavily. Like Easter weekend was a fun one for him, and just went off the deep end. He had like this theory. He's like, there's this thing called accelerationism, and it works really well, except it doesn't. And then it goes in 21 years, and all of the government's doing it, but so is Call of Duty. If he ties this together at the end, I need to see.
When you see things like AI running the government, or freedom cities, or corporate governance cities, or we should replace various governments or things, we should let corporations run the court system and things like that. That's an accelerationist belief that pushes us closer to Cyberpunk 2077. As you can tell, I do not believe in this philosophy or this movement. I think that...
You know what, man? I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell, but now
that the overall philosophy part of it might have more truth than the movement, though. I do believe that society moves.
I definitely think the whole cycle thing that he talked about at the beginning is very true. I think we went off the deep end. I think a lot of things work in that cycle. I think it's more of a way of people think, and the way that a business works. You're going to push in one direction so hard that eventually it's bound to fail, and then you have to reinvent the wheel. I think most businesses go through these iterations where things work, they fail. You have to figure out how to fix it. They work again. I've gone through that several times with YouTube, the way I do my YouTube videos, what we focus on, things like that, this channel, a million other things. And I think that is 100% true. When we went off the deep end with cyberpunk and cryptocurrency and Neuralink, I don't know what happened. That was a fever dream.
In waves or cycles. I'm not sure if they're exactly the four turnings that the accelerationists want to talk about, but they do tend to result in booms and busts, much like our economy and some of our social changes. The part where I greatly diverge from accelerationists is where people seek to speed run the bad parts by making them so much worse. I don't agree with any of the
So I'll give you the best example of that. COVID. When it was happening, everyone... Have you ever heard of pox parties? When someone gets chicken pox, they bring everyone's kids around them so they all get chicken pox, and then they're all immune for the rest of their lives because of that. People wanted to do that with COVID, and it's an idea. I think probably not a great one, because the hospitals couldn't handle it, and many other reasons. But that's an example of it, right? Like you make things so much worse to get through that worse faster. And maybe it would have been better. We don't know because we didn't do that, right? We did the opposite.
Anti-democratic or anti-egalitarian beliefs, any of the pro-corporate beliefs. I'm definitely the kind of person who would prefer to try to fix something instead of just destroy it. I'm one of those nerds that would prefer a flawed institution that needs many years of repairs over just burning it to the ground and seeing what happens. But that's just me. That's my personal morals. That's my belief. You might not agree. You might diverge from me. Your personal morals.
I mean, I think a lot of people in just a way of thinking about it, you want to get through. Why would you want to live in a bad part of society? Why would you want to have the bad part of Call of Duty be around longer, right?
This might be
if Drifter's not going to tie it back together, I will.
These people had their time, they had their chance, they had their opportunity to build the thing, it didn't pan out, and I'm not going to entertain that anymore. We're going to wipe the slate clean, and we're going to build something from the ground up. I don't know what it's going to be, but it can't be worse than what we have now. A lot of people believe that, and that doesn't make you a bad person if you believe that, because your personal morals are just different than other people's. Unfortunately, I do believe a lot of people with those morals are now in charge of very powerful institutions and really want.
We're back into the proper.
Tie
it together. Tie it in with COD. We can do this.
I'm not looking forward to the results of this experiment. Really not, but I'll probably live to see some of them. Guys, that is all for this video.
Tie it together. He didn't tie it together. I'm gonna have to do this for him. So we're going through the cycle. We're in a crisis. Good things are coming. We just don't know how long. Sure.